Husband's ex-wife and daughter came back for inheritance of his family home after we made a will, but we uncovered the worst truth in court. I, 45F, have been married to my husband Michael, 50M, for the last 10 years. We were both in our early 30s when we first crossed paths at a local art gallery. Both of us were admiring the same painting and struck up a conversation. It was like an instant connection, you know? He asked me out on a date, and as we started to know more about each other, it felt like I had known him forever. I am the oldest of 3 children in my family. Money was always tight for us, but manageable. We could afford to go for fast food only if it was our birthday. My dad taught us very early on to work hard for what we wanted to achieve in our lives. I studied hard and put myself through college. I did a few modeling gigs on the side, so by the time I graduated college, I had no debt. I had worked my way through the company and was currently working as a junior associate. Michael, on the other hand, had a completely opposite background. His family was financially better off than ours. His dad had a good job with a high salary and Social Security, so they never had to stress about money. Michael's parents could afford to cover all his college expenses. Thanks to his dad's influential position at his company, Michael got an internship there. From there, he worked hard to build his own path in the company through dedication and effort. Although Michael and I came from 2 different worlds, we shared the same passions for art and music. This is what made us fall in love with each other. Michael had a 17-year-old daughter from his previous marriage. His daughter, Candace, never really liked me from the beginning. She never seemed to warm up to me and often refused to engage with me whenever we met. It felt like she somehow held me responsible for her parents not being together, even though I met Michael long after his divorce was finalized with his ex-wife. I understood her feelings and tried to give her the space she needed to come to terms with our relationship. Just for context, Michael and his ex-wife, Amelia, were married for only 3 years. They were college sweethearts, so they decided to get married, but when they did, everything changed for the worse. She was a stay-at-home mother while Michael worked hard to bring in the money. One day, Michael returned home from a work trip earlier than planned only to discover her in bed with his best friend, Tom. This was an incredibly difficult time for Michael as he lost the 2 most important people in his life on the same day. The betrayal by Amelia left him shattered. In the aftermath, he made the painful decision to file for divorce. The divorce proceedings between Michael and Amelia were painfully bitter, primarily because Amelia was determined to retain ownership of their house, even though it belonged to Michael. The battles didn't just end with the property. They extended into a challenging custody dispute over Candace as well. Due to Amelia's infidelity during their marriage, the judge ultimately didn't grant her ownership of the house, but did grant both parents custody, ensuring that Candace would continue to have a connection with both of them. Amelia's anger over not acquiring the property festered, and over the years, she manipulated Candace's feelings, turning her against her father. Meanwhile, Michael chose not to disclose his ex-wife's infidelity to their daughter, attempting to shield her from the painful details of their past. I found out about all this when we first started dating. Michael wanted to be completely honest with me about his past, and I really appreciated that. Once, Michael had invited Candace to join us on a trip to Africa, hoping it would provide an opportunity for us to bond. I was optimistic and thought it could be a turning point for our relationship. Unfortunately, it didn't quite go as planned. During the trip, Candace seemed irritated with me and often erupted into sudden, unprovoked anger. If I got too close to Michael, she would lash out, using hurtful words like gold digger. Michael was quick to admonish her for her behavior, but she would just smirk at me, making it clear that she wasn't ready to accept me into her life. I knew the situation with his ex-wife and daughter was complicated, but our love for each other was strong, and I was willing to navigate these challenges with him. After a whirlwind romance, we got married. It was a small, intimate ceremony with just our closest friends and family. We were excited about the life we were going to build together. Amelia and Candace never attended our wedding despite our invitation. Our marriage was going great initially. We traveled the world while we both continued with our jobs. I was deeply passionate about my career, and I had no intention of giving it up. Meanwhile, Amelia was living together with Tom after their divorce. Candace had her own apartment thanks to Michael's financial support, and she was working as a social media executive in a reputed company. 3 years into our marriage, we were overjoyed to welcome our son. However, the pregnancy had been tough on me, and it was made even harder whenever Candace came to visit. She would make cruel, unsolicited comments about my weight and appearance. Whenever Michael wasn't around us, she would remark how he would leave me eventually now that I was a fat cow. This deeply troubled me, and after I shared my concerns with Michael, he decided that Candace would no longer visit our home. They began meeting at cafes instead to avoid any further distress for me. When our son Nick was born, we were beyond happy. Despite becoming a parent, I was determined to keep working, so we decided to hire a babysitter to help us care for him. When my maternity leave ended, I eagerly returned to my job. Even though we were in a stable and comfortable place in our lives, I cherished my financial independence and the ability to continue pursuing my career. If Candace had issues with me before, they seemed to intensify after Nick came into our lives. At family events, which we would sometimes organize, she would target Nick, attempting to bully him, which left our son in tears and seeking our help. While I understood her hatred towards me, I couldn't stand by and allow her to take her anger out on Nick, our innocent little boy. I banned her from ever coming to our house again. We also stopped hosting family events at our house from that point on. As we were getting older, Michael and I realized the importance of planning for the future. We decided to create a will to ensure our affairs were in order. Given that Michael had already provided a flat for Candace, he designated me and our son as the inheritors of our family home. His remaining assets, which were the money in his personal savings account, would go to Candace. Meanwhile, I had my own assets, which I intended to leave to my son, ensuring that he would be well taken care of throughout his life. We both felt this was the right decision to secure our family's future and provide for Nick as he grew up. When Amelia and Candace got wind of our will, all hell broke loose. I am not sure if Michael mentioned it by mistake or if his parents did, but they were not happy at all. Amelia called Michael, demanding that they deserved to have the house since she was married to him first. Michael firmly stood his ground. He reiterated that he had always provided for Candace, from her child support to her college expenses to buying her an apartment. He told her that while he would ensure Candace was secured in the future, he was going to leave the property to our son. This seemed to anger her even further, and Amelia sent me a long text message where she called me every name in the book. I showed Michael the message, who asked me not to engage with her further and block her immediately. The following day, Candace showed up at our doorstep, clearly upset. I knew she was here to talk about the will with us. I didn't want her to create a scene in front of our son, so I quickly arranged for my parents to pick him up. With just the three of us left, Candace made her intentions known. She insisted that my son and I should give up the property because, as Michael's firstborn, she believed she deserved the house. Despite feeling irritated, I remained silent and looked to Michael to handle the situation. Michael explained to Candace that he had always provided her with everything she needed in life. He assured her that he would be leaving her his savings and that he also had a commitment to secure my and our son's future. Leaving the family property to us was his way of ensuring our well-being. Candace then shifted her focus onto me, insisting that I should do the right thing. I calmly expressed my support for my husband's decision, which only seemed to infuriate her more. She raised her voice and threatened to take me to court. At this point, I didn't want to escalate the situation further, so I requested that she leave us alone. As anticipated, a few weeks later, I received a legal notice informing me that both Candace and Amelia were taking us to court over the property. Their accusations included claims that I had married Michael for his money and manipulated him into taking away their family property. Michael and I consulted our lawyer, who assured us that Candace and Amelia didn't have strong legal grounds to support their claims. However, despite the legal advice, I couldn't shake my worries, particularly because I didn't want our son to experience the drama surrounding this family dispute. As the court date approached, the tension in our household grew. In court, Amelia's lawyer was relentless in their efforts to assert that Michael needed to prioritize his first child, Candace, above all else. Their argument centered on pushing for a full-blown trial to determine the property's ownership. The looming court trial had both Michael and me on edge, especially since Amelia's lawyer resorted to dirty tactics, digging up our past to make their case. Our own lawyer was doing his best, but the situation was undeniably stressful. During this time, out of the blue, we received an unexpected call from Tom, who insisted on meeting us at home. Since the painful discovery of Tom's involvement with Amelia, Michael had cut off all ties with his former best friend and didn't want to meet him. However, I convinced Michael to hear Tom out, just in case it would help us resolve this dispute sooner. When Tom came over to our house, we half expected it to be another one of Amelia's lawyer's ploys to undermine our case. However, to our surprise, Tom was here with a different intention. He revealed that he had come to make a confession about something that would be incredibly difficult for Michael to hear. Michael sat motionless as Tom revealed that Amelia had been seeing him behind Michael's back for a very long time and that they had been involved romantically even before Amelia became pregnant. I held my breath as Tom continued disclosing a bombshell that none of us had expected. Apparently, when Amelia got pregnant, she confided in him that she believed the child was actually his. However, because Michael was financially more stable, she had chosen to keep the truth hidden and remain in the marriage. Tom had pleaded with her to reveal the real father to Michael, but she had consistently refused to do so. I couldn't believe how Amelia could manage to keep this a secret for so long, and the audacity she had to fight over the property while keeping this monumental secret from Michael. It was mind-boggling how she had maintained this charade for so many years while causing such turmoil within our family. Tom explained that he had kept silent all these years because he believed Amelia truly loved him. However, witnessing the pain we were going through because of the court trial, he finally saw her for who she really was. He started weeping, asking Michael to forgive him for his betrayal. Michael, still in a state of shock, sat there silently. I could see the pain in his eyes, and it was heartbreaking. This man had believed his whole life that Candace was his daughter, and now he was being told it was all a lie. I was filled with anger and frustration, especially seeing the emotional turmoil that my husband was going through. For years, I had chosen to remain silent whenever Amelia and Candace were rude to me, as I wanted to maintain a cordial relationship with them for Michael's sake. However, with the truth now out in the open, there was no point in continuing the charade. I promptly contacted our lawyer and relayed the confession Tom had made. Our lawyer informed us that for our statements to hold weight in court, we would need concrete evidence, such as a DNA test. Michael and I decided to invite Candace over for dinner under the pretense of wanting to meet her. Our plan was to discreetly collect a glass or spoon she used during the meal to test for DNA. Candace, though surprised, agreed to come over. Her demeanor was as rude as ever, and she continued to belittle me and Nick during the visit. She remained confident that she and her mother would win the case, taunting me that I would lose everything soon. I chose to ignore her comments, hoping this would be the last time we'd have to endure her behavior. After she left, we immediately reached out to our lawyer, who collected Candace's glass for testing. The results came in just a few days before our next court hearing, confirming what Tom had said. Candace was indeed his daughter. On the day of the hearing, I felt a mix of emotions: anger at Amelia for her deceit, sympathy for Michael, and determination to protect our family's rights. Taking the stand in front of the jury, I braced myself and began answering our lawyer's questions. I delved into my past, my career, and the fact that I had never given up on my job even after we got married. I recounted the emotional torment, taunts, and abuse I had endured from both Amelia and Candace over the years, presenting screenshots and evidence to back up my claims. I told the jury that Candace had never accepted my presence in her life and had even refused to attend our wedding. Then, I revealed Tom's confession. I spoke about how we discovered who Candace's real father was and the dirty secret that Amelia had kept hidden from everyone for so long. Candace looked at me in disbelief, exchanging angry whispers with her lawyer. Meanwhile, our lawyer presented the DNA results, which proved my statement. I looked at Amelia's face in satisfaction as she realized she couldn't escape the truth any longer. Candace, on the other hand, looked shocked, as if her entire world was crumbling. The emotions in the courtroom were raw. Now that the truth was out in the open, there were no grounds for Amelia and Candace to stand on. Amelia looked defeated, and Candace, who had been so sure of her victory, was now grappling with the fallout of her mother's lies. It didn't take long for the jury to decide. The judge announced the verdict, awarding us ownership of the family home as per Michael's wishes. The jury acknowledged that Candace and Amelia had no legitimate claim to the property. For the next couple of days, We received mixed reactions from our close family and friends. While many understood our situation and supported us, a few criticized us, believing it was cruel to reveal the truth in such a public way. Michael, however, was deeply affected. The revelation that Candace wasn't his biological daughter left him questioning everything. He struggled to eat or sleep and was consumed by the betrayal. I suggested therapy, and after some initial hesitation, Michael agreed. He began attending regular sessions, and while it was a slow process, I could see him starting to heal. A month later, Candace unexpectedly reached out to us. She called to apologize for her behavior, admitting that she had always been jealous of me. She revealed that her mother had manipulated her into believing that Michael was the one who had cheated, turning her against him. Candace begged Michael not to stop being a part of her life, and he reassured her that he would always consider her his daughter, no matter what the DNA results said. This brought her to tears, and it seemed like she had been seeking this reassurance all along. She also apologized to me, expressing regret for the pain she had caused. While I appreciated her apology, I knew it would take time before I could fully trust her again. 3 months later, Amelia showed up at our doorstep, uninvited. She was in tears, revealing that Tom had left her and asked her to move out of his house. With nowhere to go, she wanted us to convince Candace to let her move in. Michael lost his temper for the first time. He firmly told Amelia that the apartment was Candace's, and it was her decision whether to let her mother stay. He expressed his anger at her for never apologizing for the pain she caused and made it clear that he wanted nothing more to do with her. I asked her to leave, making it clear that she was no longer welcome in our lives. After Amelia's visit, Michael and I decided it was time for a fresh start. We began the process of selling our family home and relocating to a new state. Michael's job could be done remotely, and I was open to finding a new company to work for. This move wasn't just about escaping the drama. It was about protecting our son and rebuilding our lives. As we packed up our belongings, I felt a sense of closure. This chapter of our lives had been filled with betrayal, heartbreak, and legal battles, but it had also brought us closer as a family. Michael's therapy sessions continued, and he was slowly coming to terms with everything. Candace, too, was making an effort to rebuild her relationship with her father, and while it was a work in progress, it was a step in the right direction. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful about the future. We were leaving behind the toxicity and starting anew, a fresh chapter, free from the shadows of the past.